Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We want to welcome our guests to Paterson. This is an auspicious day and a proud moment for Paterson. As a matter of fact, prior to this press conference, I didn't know the word auspicious until Chief McDermott sat me down and said the synonym is propitious.
Finally, I got one.
You got one, very good. So let's take a look back at Paterson, where we were. We wouldn't be considered a data-driven city. In fact, I think if you were to score us as far as the use of data is concerned, we'd probably get a 0 4 years ago. But now here we are in 2022, and we've become a culture that depends on data to drive decision making. And we also have a chief data officer as a result of the fact that we are now becoming more dedicated to data. And then the pandemic happened, and we needed data as far as protecting our people is concerned, because it literally was life or death in the city of Paterson. And so we had our chief data officer, Harsha, project out how bad this could be. And that helped us make decisions, like shutting down non-essential businesses, which included liquor stores, even though we got pushback and we continue to debate whether or not they are essential. That's a discussion for a different day. But yet, speaking of the days during this pandemic, we had the daily infection rate on a dashboard that Harsha had created. And then on the public safety side, how many guns were we seizing? And with fire, public, and other departments, we were working using data. And so here we are today, when we started from 0. And we only had one way to go, up. And that's where we continue to go. And now we're so proud, Paterson is certified, silver certified, under What Works cities, because cities win with data. So at this time, here's our big winner, our chief data officer who took tremendous pride in this particular initiative, Harsha.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. This is an exciting time for the city of Paterson. We've been on this road for 3 years, and we've achieved our silver certification this year with What Works Cities. I would want to give a shout out to all of our department directors, our business administrator, our public safety department, our economic development, our Department of Public Works. We've been working closely with all of our city staff to analyze data, build dashboards, and achieve the certification today. We are also launching some exciting partnerships with What Works Cities and the Bloomberg cohort, looking into how, going forward, the city can improve our contract procurement process. We've launched a results-driven procurement partnership, again, with the Bloomberg Harvard initiative. We've achieved silver certification this year, but as the mayor mentioned, there is only one way up, and we are looking to continue doing this work and achieving gold certification. Thank you.
Yes, that's right, Harsha. We're going for the gold. And I also want to express how much we appreciate Michael Bloomberg, a visionary leader.
Yeah, that's right.
In God we trust. Everyone else bring data. Speaking of which, we're very happy to have with us Lauren Sue from What Works Cities. And right at this moment, we'd ask her to say a few words. Lauren, please, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Lauren.
Congratulations. Thank you, Mayor Saya, for inviting us to join you here today. We are thrilled to celebrate your commitment to data-driven decision-making and showcase your leadership as a national example for using data and evidence to drive local government. The growing impact of Paterson's opioid response team being discussed here today is only one of the many ways Paterson is using data to improve the lives of your residents. Working closely with Paterson's first Chief Data Officer, Harsha, our team here has had the pleasure of supporting the extraordinary commitment and hard work of Paterson City staff, who are putting data front and center in how Paterson does business. I want to recognize my colleague, Samatha Namana, who has worked side by side with the Paterson team.
Good.
Now, allow me just to share a few examples of how Paterson stands out. Departments are working together to expand how data is collected, maintained, shared, and used. That can be a huge culture shift for cities working together to use data to improve programs and services, and Paterson is doing that. Paterson has worked with What Works Cities team at Results for America to open up its procurement opportunities, helping local businesses and small businesses understand how to better bid on city contracts and improve their ability to better compete for bids. The city established an open data policy to promote transparency and accountability, and the city is exploring ways to use technology and innovation to improve public safety. Everything from deploying resources better for police to creating virtual neighborhood watches to using data to help curb gun violence. You can see that data and evidence are driving how the city of Paterson is doing business. This is exactly the culture that Bloomberg Philanthropies was trying to build in communities when it established What Works Cities to set a standard of excellence for city government. Now, Samantha and I, we help lead the program at Results for America. We know how hard this work is. We know the incredible impact it can have in our city and in your city. Mayor, congratulations on this incredible achievement, and thank you for your leadership. And to the city team, it's been such an honor to support you. We know how hard you all work and the time and dedication that you have put towards this effort to build new systems and new ways of working. So today, we celebrate your achievement of What Works City certification, and the impact of your work will continue to touch the lives of Paterson residents for many more tomorrows. So thank you and congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. Very nice.
Lauren, we look forward to seeing you next year when we are gold certified with What Works Cities and prove that cities do win with data. This has been a culture shift here. Data was like a foreign language. And there are many foreign languages spoken here in Paterson. And now people are speaking data more often. Speaking of which, we have an actual example of how data is working in this city. And unfortunately, within this pandemic, we have an epidemic. We have people who struggle with opioid use disorder, and police and fire will know that because they respond to the calls. And so now we're trying to capture that data so that, once again, we can help save lives. And so a young lady that's spearheading our efforts with the opioid response team is Andrea Ramallo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Business Administrator Long, also for your support from the get-go with this. My biggest thanks to both of you is for hiring Harsha. Apologize, left. Because realistically, what Harsha has been able to do with the What Works Cities program, as well as just being a strong leader by example, is show that when data is brought into different departments, brought, sort of cross-departmentally for people to be speaking in that language, as the mayor sort of said, it's critical to understanding really where our resources can be better positioned and targeted for the benefit of residents. So the opioid response team is very much an example of that. What we are trying to do is collect data to understand between the police as well as fire what exactly is happening in terms of opioid overdose calls and also the response. Who is overdosing, who is repeatedly overdosing, what's the frequency at which those overdoses occur. That's the sort of targeted outreach that we're getting to with our group, which is great. What we've been able to do so far is to target at least the geographic area where we know that overdoses occur most frequently. So 2% of the streets in the city, right? 2% of the overall street segments account for 20% of all overdoses. So even if we are able to, because when you think about the opioid epidemic, it feels very big, it feels very scary, it feels very insurmountable, but we can at least understand the geography, which means that we can start targeting our resources better. So what we're currently doing is we have specially trained EMS workers, Captain Morrow Chief Morrow at the head of that. We have specially trained HHS workers, Sinead Joyner at the head of that, and as well as police officers who go out in a team dynamic to this geographic area to at least be promoting positive and solid information about recovery options that actually are proven to reduce mortality. And that's really the main focus of our first intervention. So through that, we've been able to reach about 700 individuals to date with sort of a referral for any sort of program and again, data-driven understanding of mortality reduction resources. About 425 of them are individuals, right? So a lot of papers written, fewer individuals reached, but that's okay. Really, our whole goal is just to be reaching this corridor with good information, and we're able to consistently do that week after week, which is very exciting. Again, the data that we are collecting is able to help us guide these next steps, so we understand that anywhere from 30 to 40% of all overdoses per month are typically someone who has already overdosed before, right? And they've already been seen by our police or our EMS before. That's a drain on resources. It's also obviously not healthy and not a good trajectory for that individual. So the goal is to be reaching them with targeted information, which, through different, legal, HIPAA, et cetera, making sure that we're crossing our I's, dotting our T's, we'll be able to do so very soon. We're also, through our data, able to make the decision to put social workers in the correct places. So we're going to be working very closely with St. Joe's very soon to have social workers actually placed at the hospital at the times of day and days of the week where we know that there are influxes of individuals looking for recovery support. And that's, we really appreciate the support from St. Joe's and their leadership and their consistency, and specifically their chief of pain and addiction medicine, Dr. LaPietra, who's just been a huge pioneer working with the city on this. So we're excited to keep this momentum going. I know on behalf of all of us working this on the ground, thank you, Director Spezial, and thank you, Chief McDermott, for your leadership, as well as to Director Ramirez, who's not here at the moment, from Health and Human Services, making sure that we can keep doing this work and keep driving forward. So thank you.
Thank you,
Andrea, we appreciate your efforts. You raised some very salient and startling statistics relative to how dire the situation is and how isolated it is, as far as like 2% accounting for 20%. And I also want to hear from two individuals. You can consider them frontline, boots on the ground, seen it all on the streets. Not just statistics, but this is just what they've observed and what they have to get involved with. Because at one point, when A&E, the channel, had a program known as Live Rescue, Paterson was one of the fire departments in the country that was featured on this show. And I remember the chief telling me that in one episode, it's an hour-long episode, they had to administer Narcan 12 times. And so, at this moment, I'd like to hear from both Chief Brian McDermott and our Public Safety Director, Jerry Spezial.
Thank you, Mayor. So, first, I know for me, it's to give thanks to our business administrator, our mayor, and our director for having the vision to collaborate with the Bloomberg Initiative, collaborate with people, and bring in people that care. Andrea, Harsha, without you, this does not start. It doesn't. And without your tenacity and vision, without your analytical expertise, we don't really know where to focus our efforts. Without subject matter experts in Tanae and John from the fire department, health department, and of course Todd Pearl, who's not here, there is so many people who they are just letting work, right? Let the boots in the ground, get this done, infiltrate, and find the problem. Without us actually defining the problem, how can we determine the obstacles that we're going to get to? How do we determine our action plan? And how do we gather positive results? So because of this team, the team effort, because of the support from the administration and the funding from the Bloomberg Initiative and bringing in those people, we believe we're going to make a dent in this. It is still an epidemic. It is still horrible. We are still defining the problem, but I know, and we're enumerating it, thank you to Harsha, we're actually getting the numbers to show the people that were actually impacted. You heard the number, 800 people that the ORT has already impacted. That's a staggering number, and this has not been going on for long. So with that, we plan on impacting this even more. They keep on expanding. The creativity keeps on coming through because people care. There's a lot of people here that are invested with their hearts and their minds, and because we're getting the money and the support for it, they get to push forward. So thank you for that. I give thanks for that, and I thank you to this team to keep this moving. And let's make this dent. Let's help these people that are suffering addiction to get through it and live their life instead of be one of those fatal statistics that I have seen just too many over the years. We're done with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
That's America's fire chief. Someone that does care and is always on the front line. Brian, the chief, just spoke to me a couple minutes ago about different things. Really cares. You all know that. And that's why there's such a great team here, because everybody's able to communicate, collaborate. What we've learned with focus-based, data-driven policing, all of this information that we're getting in is helping us to go after the root of the problem. And we are able to save, if we save one life, we've done something. So that's why everyone is working so extremely hard. And they do a tremendous job. I'm not out there doing it. This is what's doing it. And they are out there because they care, they are compassionate, they're empathetic, they realize that opioid disorder does not discriminate. It can touch any one of our families, and it has touched mine. I've lost 2 people to opioid disorder. So I realize what you do, and I appreciate what you do. So what can I say to you? You do so much for this city, and you ask for so little. Thank you from me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And I would be remiss if we didn't hear from our resident policy wonk, who is a devotee of data. She doesn't necessarily speak another language, but when it comes to data, she's bilingual. And that is our business administrator, Kathleen M. Long. You want to speak in data?
Thank you, Mayor. I started with the mayor as his chief of staff when he came in the administration in July 2018. And within just a few weeks, we had our introduction to Bloomberg Philanthropies and the Government Innovation Program. And that was a language that we certainly wanted to speak. And I think the thing that struck us, and I'll speak for myself, is that there are a lot of big cities that are doing this work. And that can be daunting when you look at it and say, how can a city like Paterson take on some of these challenges? Well, it's because we have the people like this behind us. Yeah. And you really only need a couple people. You only need a couple people, and you need a distinct task to get started and to not be overwhelmed and to take that first step. And I think for us, when the mayor and I participated in the City Leadership Initiative, we went back to a great supporter of the city, Barbara Lawrence of the Taub Foundation, and said, we need a little help to get this started. And so I want to make sure that we thank the Taub Foundation today, because without them, we wouldn't have our innovation team of both Harsha Malajasula, everyone's afraid of his last name, but I can and Ed Bozzi.
You're speaking data on that one.
And so that's it. We hit the ground running, especially with this data, because we knew a city like Paterson really had a lot of potential to make better decisions when we started looking at the data. And so we have a lot of room to grow, as we said. This program is a great example of how just jumping into the effort really makes a difference. So I just want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to thank Samatha myself personally for helping us along the way.
Good to meet her.
Yes, to see in person. It's been virtual this whole time, so it's great. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you, Madam PA. I do want to acknowledge Tanae Joyner. Thank you from the opioid response team. I saw Olivia too. She's collecting the data and analyzing the data. We appreciate that. And he was recognized earlier by our business administrator, but we've been joined by Ed Bozzi, our Chief Innovation Officer. And it was over a year ago when he came into my office and said there's a global mayor's challenge that's been issued by Bloomberg Philanthropies, and we should accept the challenge. And so he came in with some options, and he sort of said, well, out of the 4, I would go with this one. So I'd have to defer to his knowledge, and I went with that one. And 631 cities from around the world applied for this opportunity in the Global Mayor's Challenge, and only 15 in the world were selected, and one of the 15 is Paterson, New Jersey, and 1 out of 3 in the country. And this idea, this innovative idea from Ed Bozzi, is to address opioid use disorder with real fix, because the heroin or fentanyl, that's a fake fix, and the Narcan, that's a quick fix. But the real fix is medically assisted treatment for these individuals, which data has shown to work. And we actually piloted this program, Real Fix, with a hotline that individuals struggling with opioid use disorder could call. And what they do is when they call the 833 Real Fix hotline, they're connected with a teledoc. That individual will prescribe medication, the medically assisted treatment to that individual, and we say we can get it to you in 90 minutes. When we pilot it, we got it to them in 76 minutes. And we use the local pharmacy. But it doesn't end there because we want to put these individuals on a path to sobriety, and so we connect them with a counselor. So I want to salute you, Ed, and your efforts, because that'll certainly buttress the work that the opioid response team is doing. And so as you can see, if there's anything we've learned from this pandemic, data can help save lives. It's helped save lives with this deadly virus. It's going to help save lives with deadly drugs that are on our streets. And so that's why, like I stated before, it is an auspicious occasion and a proud moment for Paterson to say that we're certified in data excellence, and next year we're going for the gold. Thank you very much.